We want to welcome you all to our conversation about black film. We call this panel Through a Black Lens. We have a distinguished panel of guests with us today, and we welcome you to our conversation. And so, what is a black film?
I think it all depends on the cultural perspective that the film is being told from, to me, dictates what it would be called. So like Schindler's List, to me, is a Jewish film. It comes from a Jewish perspective. I would say like Eve's Bayou would be a black film. It's told from a black. I would say like a movie like Legally Blonde would be a white film if they were called white film, because it comes from that perspective. Right. You know what I mean? And some of those films will have the ability to transcend all barriers, and some won't. Some will be specific to that culture and be enjoyed and appreciated more by that culture because that's who understands it.
What would you call Django Unchained then?
What I call that's interesting because we had a whole conversation about that.
Is it a black film or is it a white film? What is it?
You know, that's a very good question. I have to think about that. I don't want to give the right answer to that.
Well, there's no such thing as a right answer.
Yeah.
I mean, just the same. I think there's that part of the brilliance of it, and I also think the success of it is that it might be a little challenging to define. I think, obviously, in its content and the core experience and experiences of it and the core perspective of it, it's a black film because it's about the black experience in a sense of that time. That's really the core, source of perspective and information. You take out, put it this way, you take out the black dynamic of that movie, to hell with it. But also something can be a black movie and more than just black people, identify with it. So I love the fact that, it just wasn't a story and nothing but all black people throughout it. We've done that, we've seen that. Yeah. So I really respected the fact that there was this diversity.
But it's a white filmmaker.
Which is fine.
But see, that's when I feel like,
fine.
I don't think that matters, because I feel like it comes from, I think a white person can make a film that comes from a black perspective. It depends on the research that they do, and you don't know who they have that's consulting the film to give them the right perspective. So I don't think we can always say if it's just depending on the director. If it really does a good, accurate job of painting that cultural perspective that we can relate to, then to me, it's a black film.
And give us the opportunity to participate so that we can share in the responsibility of how we're going to represent ourselves. That's part of it. Now, everything in that movie didn't sit well with me.
Right.
There were certain things that was just like, it's obvious we didn't make this, one of us that made this movie.
So just as a general topic for the panel, jump right in. What haven't we seen? And what truth about black life are we not exposed to now that might be of some benefit to the aesthetic as a whole to filmmaking and to the community, as it were, that we talk about the black community? What haven't we gotten?
Oh, well, I'll jump in. I think that currently I always say, we live in the extremes, I believe, when we talk about black storytelling. Either it's very tragic or everything. It's like when that's not the reality of anybody's situation, right? It's always somewhere in between. And I always say, white people get to tell a million stories where black people get to tell one or maybe two. It's either, very comedic, where all the men are dressed up in dresses, trying to make everybody laugh, or it's something very tragic where it's either about slavery or robbing and stealing. How many black love stories do we have?
Claudine.
Right. But look how far back we have to go, right?
One of the great movies.
Yeah, but to take your question more literally, like what haven't we seen? And I think the we is the operative word there. I think we, at least as people of color, have pretty much, throughout the history of the medium and all the different voices therein, have covered pretty much all the bases, I think, already. It's just a matter of what has gotten the most attention. I think people, or we, need to broaden our scope with what we're seeing. I think if we expose ourselves to more things, more artists, more filmmakers, more stories, we're going to see a broader, like a breadth and a greater depth of, of stories and of content. And part of me wants to say there's nothing we haven't done already. But the reality is we just haven't done enough of it, and we're not showing it to as many, people.
To be continued.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you.